Happy Valentine's Day. Today we're going to be talking about something that will make or break a relationship, and that is money. I'm going to be sharing with you real conversations that my husband and I have had about money, discussions that I think every couple should have. We've been married for about 5 months now. While we were dating, we didn't combine our finances. We kept our money separate, and I think that's just a safe thing to do in case that relationship doesn't work out for any reason. We still talked about joint expenses together and big expenses that we needed to save up for example, for our wedding. Both had to work really hard and save up for that. We would talk about our financial goals that we had, and we would share with each other what our ideas of what our future should look like. Now that we're newly married, we are talking about combining our finances jointly. We're getting on the same page with our money and working more together as a unit so that it's not his money versus my money, it's our money. My past relationships, I've controlled most of the finances. I'm the breadwinner and I have been for most of my life because of the industry that I'm in, and I'm very fortunate. I don't want to be paying for every single thing. I don't think that's a fair balance of power. I felt like there was a lot of weight on my shoulders. I had to make a lot of the financial decisions on my own. I felt like I had to be the mother in my relationships. When you're a wife, you don't want to be your husband's mom. Let me be clear, I do not believe in this 50-50 nonsense. I have learned from other relationships that you want it to be equitable, you want it to be fair, and 50-50 a lot of the times is not fair. Usually if there's an imbalance in income, one person is paying a lot more for things and the other person is feeling like they have to catch up or have to provide the same amount, and they end up going into debt or feeling resentful in the relationship, or they just don't feel as safe and secure. For us, it was really important that we had a balance, that one partner didn't feel more powerful over the other, and it didn't automatically mean that one person makes all the decisions. Incomes can change. If one person is starting off with a higher salary, it doesn't mean that the other person isn't going to have a higher salary later in life. Careers fluctuate. Just because I'm the breadwinner today doesn't mean my husband isn't going to be the breadwinner, tomorrow. The goal here is we want to make sure that both partners feel equal in terms of income. When I look at really successful relationships, I think of people like Vivian Tu and her husband, and she's my rich BFF. And then Ramit Sethi. Him and his wife have different incomes, and I love how they talk about our money, and I love how they dream together. All their money flows into a shared system, and then it's divided into buckets based on a shared vision. We want this system in place because we don't have to think of things and work it out each paycheck. They have a joint account, and everything funnels into this one account. And then they have accounts for investing, savings, and then they have individual accounts where he has his fund spending money and she has her fund spending money, and it's roughly the same amount. Any other decision that comes up, they make it together. I don't think that married couples should have to ask the other person for permission to do something. I don't think that one person should be asking the other person for money, because I think that doesn't really make it feel like a partnership. There's no secrets, there's no guilt, there's no power imbalances. It's a very harmonious and peaceful relationship. My husband and I were talking, and we think that's going to work for us really well. At the end of the day, it's really important to us to make sure that our relationship is healthy and it's balanced and both partners have a say in the finances. I've never had joint finances with someone. I've always been scared of that and really nervous to do that. I'm really looking forward to doing this differently this time around. This is a better, more positive experience because I'm with the right person. There is a caveat that it is very hard to do this if you're in an unhealthy relationship and with an unhealthy person, or if you're an unhealed person as well. There's a lot of things that you bring into relationships with money because it's an outward reflection of how you're feeling on the inside. Sometimes there has to be some healing that needs to get done, but if you're working through things together, even if you have to get a therapist involved, that's not a bad thing. And then you can heal that and work together and grow together. The second discussion you need to have when you're dating is, how do they feel about debt and credit? I haven't always been responsible with debt in the past, actually with most of my life. And my husband is opposite. He has been very responsible with his money. I'm paying off my last credit card. We've been working through that together. It doesn't make me a bad person. It just means that I was using credit in an unhealthy way as a coping mechanism. Once I realized what I was doing, I got some help and I was able to transition that behavior. Our shared goal is that we don't want to be in debt. We want to save up and pay for things in cash. This includes almost everything except for a house. That is the only thing that we're not going to be able to save up for 100% because has inflation and appreciation of homes every year. We talk about the purchases that we want. We talk about how much things cost. We talk about how long it's going to take for us to save and who's going to save what and where we're going to put it. For example, we were replacing our carpet with hardwood floors. We had both been saving for a renovation, and we were able to just put it on our credit cards, get the cash back, and then immediately pay those cards off in full. That feels so good. I really love where I'm at with that. It's really been encouraging. When you have these kinds of conversations with your partner, you're able to gauge where you are, like what your goals and what your attitudes are around debt, what their attitudes are around debt, because what you don't want is surprise debt payments. It instills a level of trust where you know that other person isn't going to be hiding anything because you're actively having those conversations. I guess you could say the same thing for credit scores. You should know your credit score. You should know your partner's credit score and vice versa. I have a quick favor to ask. Please like and subscribe. It really helps my channel. Thank you so much. The third discussion is, how are you going to handle financial disagreements? This is going to be a really big deal for a lot of couples because these are going to occur over your entire lifetime with this person. One of the disagreements that my husband and I have is over buying a newer used car. I don't think I need it. I have a Honda and I love it. I don't think it has a lot of miles on it. Is 120,000 miles a lot? I don't think so. It could be, but I don't know. He wants to save up and replace my car because I travel a lot for work. For him, it's not having something new that's important to him, it's the safety behind it. He's really worried that if I'm driving and my car breaks down on the side of the road, people get hit all the time, pulled over, replacing their tire or waiting for a tow. And that's one of the reasons why he's so adamant that we need to replace my car, because ideally when you're buying a new car, a newer car, you're not going to have a lot of problems. That's the goal, right? We did talk about, and I did acknowledge that I understand where he's coming from, even though I don't agree that I need a new vehicle. What we've decided is that we will both save, but we're not replacing it in a year like he wanted. We're actually going to be taking about 3 years and saving up. You might be saying, well, Kristen, you're the breadwinner. Why don't you just make the decision? Well, that kind of violates our whole working together as a couple. Just because I make more money doesn't mean I have the final say. Both of our thoughts and feelings matter. So I don't think that running them over and saying, well, I make more, so I have the final say. That's not a partnership. That's a dictatorship. And that's not something that we're interested in. Sometimes we put the issue on hold. Sometimes we tell each other that we just have more things to discuss. Sometimes we tell each other that we have things that we need to think about and maybe we'll come back to it later. Sometimes we don't make a decision, and that's okay. It's good not to rush into a financial decision that could impact you for years. We just want to make sure that we're solving our disagreements in a very healthy way, and we keep the lines of communication open because that's really important. The fourth discussion is investing. I feel like investing is one of those things that is more personal, where as long as we're communicating with each other what we're holding, then I think it's fine to hold those separately because we have different risk tolerances. We might end up combining those in the future, but for right now, they're just separate. My husband has his retirement. I have my retirement. Of course, we'll be beneficiaries on those accounts with each other, but I do think that investments is a little bit more personal. Everybody has their own risk tolerance and things that they're interested in investing in, and it's not going to be the same for the other person. Discussion number 5, these are things like life insurance beneficiaries and an emergency plan. Now, these are things that we're still working on. They do take time to get in place. It's not romantic, but these are things that protects you and protects the other person in case something happens. Discussion number 6 is really just about listening and understanding where the other person is coming from with their money beliefs. Because a lot of times you're going to find that money is not a logical thing. A lot of it is emotional. It comes from how you were raised and the lessons that you're bringing with you from childhood. Sometimes one of the most important things you can do with your partner, if you're not on the same page, is really listening to them. Ask questions. Why is this so important to you? What is it about this that makes you really passionate about this decision versus another decision? What about this is making you feel nervous? There are going to be clues in the answers that help you understand your partner and where they're coming from. For example, my husband has owned his condo since before I met him. Ever since he bought this condo, he has had the dreams of paying it off and being able to rent it out to another person. And in his mind, this was going to be an investment and an asset for him long into the future. I've already been a landlord in the past, And it's not something that I'm interested in repeating again. We've looked at many different angles. We've looked at selling it. We've looked at investing the proceeds, keeping it, paying it off, becoming a landlord. Honestly, the numbers work with us selling it. But for him, it wasn't just a logical decision. For him, the condo represented safety and security. It represented a diversification for him. He's very well aware of needing to have a safety net in place. And for him, this is what this condo represented. I realized that it really has to be his conclusion and his decision to want to sell the condo. It wasn't something I could force. It wasn't something that I could bring up numbers and facts because he wasn't going to hear that. We ended up having a situation occur that was a major turning point for us when we were doing our renovations. And he came to the conclusion that this condo is no longer a safety and sound decision for him to keep. Sometimes it's not about the numbers. Having money conversations can feel really uncomfortable, especially if you didn't grow up having money conversations. You didn't hear money conversations from your parents. It can feel very stressful, but the more you do something, the more it just becomes normal. It just becomes your everyday. I truly believe that both people need to be involved in the finances. It's just a healthier place to be. Future goals don't need to be exactly the same, but they should at least be similar, or at least are on the same page. Both partners should have a say in the finances and where that money goes. If there's disagreement, work through them with grace and understand that there's a whole separate human being that you're trying to build a life together with. Both sets of ideas should be valued. Both opinions should matter. And it shouldn't just be one person dictating what everything's going to be. Once these conversations happen and you understand where your partner's coming from and they understand where you're coming from and you're building that trust together, it stops feeling so scary. I feel really safe in this relationship because I know that if there's a money problem or there's a money opportunity, we have these discussions together, we make a decision together, and that's the goal. And it feels really good. So happy Valentine's Day, and I will see you in the next one.